Moose and Keith.
Trevino deals a ground ball in the infield to Gleyber Torres. Throws to first in time. Ball game over. Eastern Division in the American League over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
Yeah, a good Wednesday morning, one and all. Moose and Keith with you right here on the Bettor Sports Network. Remember to download that app wherever you might be watching us here on this Wednesday morning. We're taking it right up until noon. Download it, register. It's absolutely free, costs you nothing. You can call into the show. We like to take calls. You can hit the fun button as well. We do giveaways, but you can't do all of that unless you have the Bettor Sports Network app. So make sure to download that app. Good morning, Keith. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Did you see the Sterling cam when he called the game winning?
Yes.
Yeah,
It was great.
He's nuts, man. And I mean nuts in like the, like when you say, oh, that whatever, that person's bad. Like, I mean, he's nuts in every bit of the good word. I love it. He's so into it. The Yankees win when he's waving his arms. Fantastic.
Oh, he loves. Yeah, I mean, he loves the Yankees. I've done shows with John Sterling on WFAN in New York, and I've known John for a long, long time. So, I wouldn't say I'm a close friend, but I would say I'm a friend of his. I saw him last week when Judge hit his 60th at the stadium, had a nice conversation before he hit the airwaves and stuff. And he's a treasure. And he's great at what he does. I understand that, he's not, everybody's cup of tea. But that's fine. I mean, he's got a flair for the dramatic. He's different. I enjoy when people do things a little bit differently. And, the stuff with the home run calls and the Yankees win, when that all began and, to kind of get to where he is now. I mean, he's done it all as well. He's done basketball games. I mean, John Sterling has been, a play-by-play icon here in the Northeast or really around the country.
Yeah, and I'm with you, by the way, because I've heard a lot of people just not be into him. And I will say it this way. If you're a fan of the team, he is the home team broadcaster. So it makes sense for what he does. Listen, I think if I were a Red Sox fan and I was listening to a Yankee broadcast, I probably would think he's terrible, right? Like, I think that's, and I think that if you, not you and me, because we're broadcasters, and I think we can hone in on like actual things, but like a fan, think of a Red Sox fan was listening to a Yankee, radio broadcast, you'd be like, oh, this guy, he yells and screams, he does this. I think that's the way I would word it. And I think it's the same with every local broadcast. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, I think, some local broadcasts are more homerish than others. I think, that's the way you look at it. Yeah. I think people are going to be critical of everying. I mean, unfortunately, That's the kind of the times that we live in. I mean, you could be great. You could be unbelievable, this and that. You're always going to find a section of the audience or the population that's not going to like you. I mean, that's just it. I mean, there's always going to be the contrarians out there. So, I get it. I don't think it affects John one way or the other. I love him. I think it's fun. It's entertaining. I give him credit. I mean, the man's in his 80s.
Yeah.
And he's still calling baseball games.
Yep.
And he's got a flair for it that separates him from everybody else. So, it's great. And the Yankees Keith, win a game last night, beat the Toronto Blue Jays 5-2 the final. Their magic number going into the game was 2. So with the win and the Jays loss, they clinched the American League East. It's their 20th in franchise history since we went to divisions in Major League Baseball, the first since 2019. The team looked like they were going to be collapsing in the month of August. They didn't. I also don't think anybody in that American League East came and got them either. So they didn't have an Atlanta Braves that the Mets are dealing with now as they're tied for that NL East that basically played ridiculous baseballs. The Mets are playing 14-10 baseball. The Atlanta Braves are going 17-7 in the month of September. So, they don't have any of that with the American League East. So it was a great accomplishment for a team that really earned it. At one point in time, you thought they were going to be on a historical pace where they were going to win 116, 117 games. Played out, they were never that good. And when they got bad, they were never that bad. That's the old adage, old cliche when you look at sports, right? When you're riding a winning streak, you're not as good as the winning streak. When you're riding a losing streak, you're really not all that bad. Well, you saw that this year with this Yankee team. So they win the American League East. They set themselves up and they've got 8 games to play with to get themselves ready to go for really the pivotal 5-6 week stretch of October baseball and playoff baseball. And Judge is still sitting on home run number 60 as we got one game to go before the Malusis are in the building Friday night against the Baltimore Orioles in the Bronx. And now, Keith, what you wanted them to do weeks ago, people are doing. They're not pitching to him. I mean, that's it. They're not throwing them. They're not. I mean, he had every at bat last night. He had a 3-2 count. He walked on 4 occasions. You saw the game before against the Toronto Blue Jays where they intentionally walked him in the top half of the 10th inning. The Jays eventually walked that game off with the Vladimir Guerrero hit, an RBI single in the bottom half of the 10th after the Yankees didn't score. So, Keith, now you're getting what you wanted. You didn't want the guys to pitch to him. Now they're not pitching to him.
This is smart, but guess what? The other Yankees are
robbing us. It's robbing us. Throw him a cookie. You were throwing Pujols cookies all over the place.
Pujols is different. 700 is much. All right, but again, all right, so we are both in New York. I'm a Yankees fan. I know I like the Yankees. But no one cares about the Yankees besides the Yankee fans.
I don't care. I like caring about the Yankees.
I'm with you. But these pitchers are doing the smartest thing ever, and they should have been doing this for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Why give Judge anything to hit? Judge shouldn't even be in the Triple Crown conversation because he should be leading the major leagues in walks and intentional walks. He's the best hitter in baseball. Why pitch to him? And the Blue Jays are being smart here too, right? The Blue Jays need to win games in order to make the playoffs. So they're pitching around him. When they give anything near the strike zone, it's low. And I get it from a fan standpoint. Moose, you're so right. Just give him something to hit. Let's get the 61. Let's get the 62. And we can all be over this and we can move on. But from a baseball standpoint, this is as smart as it can be. Don't pitch to Judge. But guess what? Rizzo now is starting to heat up, which, by the way, we gave out the total base prop yesterday and nailed that one. I think we're going back to the well again today. Gleyber Torres is starting to heat up. And if these guys can hit, then you almost have to pitch to Judge. That's what has to happen. I don't know. And Baby Jade is right. This could be working in our favor. Exactly. That's my point, is that the Yankees were going to have to figure out how to win games when Aaron Judge is on base 4 times, but only because of 1 single and 3 walks, right? If they can win when he has games like that, this team can win in the postseason. And I feel, you tell me, I feel so much more confident about this New York Yankees team in the postseason today, Wednesday, September 28th. Oh, by the way, let me deviate from the plan for a second. Happy birthday to my mother. Today is her birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yep. Mama Irizarry, I think she's 28, 29 years old today. Awesome. Stunning. She's a saint. She has dealt with me for many years. So she is an absolute saint.
I don't think you were a bad. I wasn't
a bad kid.
5 weeks. I get a sense that you were really not a bad kid.
I wasn't a bad kid, but my mother, I don't think she would say a bad thing about me. No, but the reason why you
never stressed her out. Let's just curious. Like there was no you never were you a dirty stay out? Did you stay out late in high school? Did you? I mean, was there a time where you really stressed her out? I've got 3 boys. I love them at this age. Like when the problems or the issues get a little bit more, bigger kids, bigger problems. That's when I start to get a little concerned. Not that my kids are bad; they just don't listen half the time. But you get the point. You never stressed Mama Irizarry out.
I think I stressed her as much as any mom could be stressed. I was a pretty good kid. I didn't drink or do any drugs or anything like that. I was straight edge. I was a
basketball player.
Yeah, I cared more about sports when I was younger than I did even
You were the Bruce
girls
Bowen of high school hoops.
Yeah, all that. But anyway, happy birthday to her.
Now, what are you going to be doing for your mom's birthday today?
All right, so we do have dinner plans tonight. We're going to go to my sister's house for dinner. I still have to do Bettor's Eye, so everyone's going to get together. I'll just be late. I got to work tonight, so I'll the whole family be there.
Who's in charge of now? There's always one sibling that's like in charge of the birthday cake. Like, is there?
I'm in charge of cake.
All right. So now, what's your mom's favorite cake?
She knows what it is. I won't say it because I know for a fact she's watching. She always watches our show. Yeah, she watches.
She has okay. So hello, Mama. Here's Ari, and happy birthday. So what? Let me ask. So is there? But she has like a cake that she loves. Like everyone's got. Whether you're an ice cream cake person, whether it's be 3-layer chocolate, whatever it might be, cannoli cake. I'm a huge key lime pie guy. I know that's not a birthday cake, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, so everyone's got a little special. So you're in charge of the cake. So that's all set, ready to go.
Yeah, I'm this afternoon between this show and between Bettor's Eye. I'm going to go to a bakery. I know exactly what I'm getting. I will get the cake. Jody and the boys will get over to my sister's house early. Nice. I'll get over there probably around 7:15. I'll eat the whatever's left over for dinner, and then we'll do a little get together.
Yeah. That's awesome. We got a little. But that now, will Jody bring some apples from the orchard yesterday?
We got she bought a pie yesterday, so she's bringing the pie.
She did. Now, did she go apple crumb or like the regular?
So how about this? Very weird. Say what you want. She ended up getting a chocolate pudding pie there. Like, it's this chocolate.
Really?
Yeah. And you know why? She's the best wife ever, because that's like my favorite thing is I love a good chocolate pudding pie. Like,
they're really delicious.
Yeah. So she ended up getting chocolate pudding pie, like I don't know how many pounds of apples. We have so many apples in this house right now. Like,
and what kind of apple? Because I'm an apple snob. So what kind of apple did she go with?
I know. I don't know that. I'm
you
not
didn't
an
ask?
Apple snob.
After the conversation, did she go a little pink lady?
There's green ones in there. There's red ones in there. If you really, really, really want to know, I guess I could run upstairs during the break and get the bucket of it.
Did they have the pole with the scooper on the end to go get them off the tree, or did they pick them off the ground?
No, and it was like a 9-foot pole. So my younger son's 8, and he's like, like I got videos of him trying to figure out how to do it. It was great.
That's great. That's awesome. Those are good times.
Oh God, yeah.
What were we talking about? We were talking about baseball, right?
Yeah. Apple pie, baseball, yeah.
Well, let me ask you, so you're a huge Yankee fan, right?
Sure.
You're celebrating, you got the Bettor's Eye tonight.
Yep.
Will you be watching the Yankees and Jays tonight?
I will have it as long as my sister doesn't tell me I can't. It'll be on the living room television with no sound.
Okay. So, but you'll have it on. Like, will you, if someone yells, if Austin is Judge is up, will you guys all go to the TV, or will you?
I think that, my mother won't, my sister will not, and my nieces will not, but like me, the boys, my dad, and even Jody would probably run to the television to watch it.
Yeah, go see it. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's great. That's fun.
I guess my mom might walk over just because, but
yeah,
she wouldn't actually care necessarily. If it was me hitting the home run, she'd care.
Oh, for sure. Well, you're the golden child. You're the boy. No doubt she loves you. I get
I'm
that.
The favorite, right?
That. Yeah.
Mom, I'm the favorite, right? I'm just going to look straight at the camera. Mom, I know you have 2 kids. I'm your favorite child. Just tell Stacy that. I'm your favorite child.
No, my sisters used to always bust my chops when we were growing up that I was the golden child, that my mom loved me more than them. It wasn't true. My mom loved all of her kids, but that's what I like to bust people's chops about, because I used to hear that as well, but yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, if I won't be home tonight, I'll be at WPIX and doing the sports and everything like that. But if Judge goes out there and hits that home run, I'm sure my boys at home will be watching with Donna. So here up in Stamford, Connecticut, listen, it is. I'm not sure how to, and they celebrated last night, the Yankees, and the champagne was flowing, and Judge and Boone had the championship belt out, and, handed it to Tyone for his start last night. And, you're seeing, as you mentioned, Keith, other guys in this lineup getting healthy. And Rizzo, Gleyber Torres is on a hot streak. You're not wrong with the assessment at all that the Yankees are going to need more than Aaron Judge to win a World Series, and they haven't won a World Series since 2009. So it's been a little bit of a drought. Now, some baseball fans might say, well, I mean, how is that really a drought? There are some teams that, that go 30 or 35 years, before they get back into the. I understand, but when you spend the kind of money that the Yankees spend each and every year, you expect there to be growth and playoff success. I always say, like, if you look at that 2017 team, I know the Astros cheated, but if I were to tell you after that 17 year by the Yankees, which I love that team because it came out of nowhere, there were no expectations going into that season, if you remember. If I told you at that time the Yankees hadn't won a World Series since, after that, or hadn't gotten to a World Series after that, you would have said, you're crazy. Of course they would have. And they haven't. And they've gotten farther and further away. So I look at this group. You're right about that. I'm curious about Judge, though, if now that the division race is over and the Yankees are the AL East champs, does that alleviate some of the pressure on them now? Or, is it a case where, and they brought it up to last night on the Yes broadcast, everybody, it is definitely silent during his at-bats, strangely silent. Like there is no cheering, there is no atmosphere. There is when he gets announced, people, are up cheering and chanting and the MVPs. But then when he steps into that batter's box, getting ready for the first pitch of any particular at bat, it's as quiet as anything. So it's a little bit odd, whether it be the nervous anticipation of what you're about to witness, and you haven't been able to see it. So now that the division race is over, is Judge able to maybe focus in, even though he's not getting the great pitches and he's not chasing and he's working out a ton of walks?
Yeah, I think the pressure comes off him. But I would say that today you got the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays, again, still need to win. And then the series that you're going to, you got the Orioles. And, I mean, as of at least this Friday, they will not be eliminated from postseason contention. So the Orioles are still going to be playing for something in that weekend series. I think Baltimore pitches around him also. I do. And could he run into one? Maybe. But you just said it there. He doesn't chase. So he seems to be very aware of what's going on, also aware of the Triple Crown race that he's in. So he's not trying to get, silly outs because he's chasing something out of the strike zone and pop it up or foul off or whatever it is. I think that Ranger series is going to be fascinating because in theory, that would be the time where you give Judge some time off, right? Like you might even DH him, or maybe you sit him in a game or two because he's played so much this year. But if he's still at 60, or if he's at 61 by then, I think he plays those games, and I think maybe that's when he hits the home runs. Yeah,
I think I don't think you think they give Judge a rest day if he's still sitting on 60, doesn't get there.
No,
I think do I. Or
if he gets 62, they might.
Well, let me ask you this, Keith. I'll throw another one at you. Because you saw this with Jose Reyes with the Mets when he won a batting title. Remember when he bunted his first at bat and then they took him out of the game, and Terry Collins was just a completely, utterly embarrassing moment for the Mets. They should never have done that, and Reyes should, the Mets should never have acquiesced to Reyes's request to do that in order to win a batting title in the National League. If you get to it, say for argument's sake, okay, he gets to 62 home runs, right? And that's the magic number. Do you think the final day, if he's got a batting title on the line, do you think Judge plays or do you think he sits?
I think the Yankees would want him to play because I think the Yankees want him to get the Triple Crown. I get this feeling from Judge, and maybe I'm wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if he sat. But my gut would say that he would play. Yeah, my gut would say that he would play.
Yeah, I think he would play.
Yeah.
I think he would play and let the chips fall where they may. By the way, we wake up here on this Wednesday morning. It's Moose and Keith here on the Bettor Sports Network, and Judge is leading the American League in batting average. He's had a little bit of a dip, right? So he was up to, I think at one point in time, 316. He's now hitting 314 on the season. So he's a point ahead when you look at the batting average in American League, and he's obviously clear in home runs and clear in RBIs. So all that good. And the one thing is that what's helping him in that batting average is that he is not chasing. He is not pressing, right? And he is still seeing the pitches. So, even though he has not hit a home run since last Tuesday, right? We came on the airwaves. I was at the stadium last Tuesday night, for Judge's 60th home run against the Pirates in the top half of the ninth inning when the Yankees had that, crazy comeback down 8-4, win it 9-8, and walk off the Pirates after the Giancarlo Stanton grand slam. you have not seen Judge really hit a home run. He had that deep fly against the Boston Red Sox to straightaway center field that would have been out in a majority of ballparks, given the exit velocity and given the launch angle of the bat, but it did not go out that night, and the ball didn't fly, and we all thought it was going to go out off the bat. Aside from that, he really hasn't been close.
No, he hasn't. But again, they're winning games, and that's that's the one thing I'll say. If they were losing these games and he's not hitting home runs and he's not hitting as well right now, then I think I'd be angrier. Like, you know how, like, I know some of it was a little bit of you joking around, but some of it is really just the inner fan coming out at the beginning of the show when you were like, just pitch on the ball, you know, like whatever. But yeah, I think I'd feel a lot more like that if the Yankees were losing these games. I know they lost to Toronto, 2 nights ago, but otherwise, in essence, they're winning. They're playing better baseball right now, and I feel better going to the postseason.
I would agree. I agree with all that, 100%. They're playing better baseball. Everything that you just mentioned, Keith. I just want him to get it because I think he's earned it.
I agree.
That's it. Like I think Judge is an easy guy to root for. I think he carries himself really well. And I'm not telling you that he has to get it. And sometimes maybe I was mentioning last night in the Picks newsroom. Maybe we go all this time. Judge sits on 60 the rest of the way and doesn't hit another home run. And I had a couple of Yankee fans say, no, that's not going to happen. It could. I mean, who would have thought after last Tuesday we'd be sitting here on Wednesday and Judge would still be on 60? And you mentioned it, the Orioles have got something to play for. The Red Sox have got the Blue Jays have got something to play for. So maybe he doesn't hit another home run. He's an easy guy to root for. I think there are a lot of people in our area that we live that believe that as well. And I'd love to see him get to 62 home runs. Whether he does it or not, we'll all find out together.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, we're going to step aside.
Before we do that, let's touch, because Brian Geltzeiler is going to join us bottom of the hour, right? We're going to continue and talk a little NBA conversation. We'll get into a little NFL conversation a little bit later on. A couple other baseball things. We spent a lot of time talking a little bit about Judge here in the opening segment. Let's hit upon a couple of things. Number one, NL East. Braves and Mets, we wake up on this Wednesday. They're tied for that divisional race. After the Braves, take care of business last night, the Mets lose at home to the Miami Marlins. And you or I were on opposing viewpoints here when you looked at the NL East, Keith. I thought the Mets were going to be able to hold on. You're looking at this Met team. They're 1-6 here in the month of September at home. I mean, they're losing to bad teams. Last night was a bad performance by Cookie Carrasco. And the Atlanta Braves, all they do is win baseball games. I mean, it seems like every night is a win night. Acuna's turning things around. I mean, he's looking like a guy that, October, Ronald Acuna Jr. So
he's healthy now.
Right now,
he's finally healthy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right about that. After the torn ACL last summer, for the Atlanta Braves. But Mets and Braves right now are tied for the NL East, so maybe you end up proving to be correct where the Braves win that division. That would be a huge blow to the Mets.
Agreed. And I'm not saying I listen, I don't want to be right on this one. I'd like to see the Mets win the division. I think they were the best team in that division for the entire year, except that they never put the Braves away. They allowed the Braves, who were playing great baseball, to hang around. When you open up a big lead, you can't look over your shoulder and be like, no big deal. 10.5. Okay, 7.5. All right, 4.5. Okay, 2.5. Like, you can't do that. And the Braves are an excellent baseball team, and the Mets didn't put them away. Now, you could say that the Mets have 97 wins, and that should be enough with 7 to play. It's not. The Atlanta Braves are dangerous, and the Atlanta Braves are healthy right now, and the Mets aren't healthy. Marte has been out, and you've got the pitching staff that's going in and out of their lineup. DeGrom had a bad day in his last outing. Like, put it all together. I still stick with it. I think the Braves are going to win this division. I think the Braves are going to either sweep the Mets in that series or win 2 out of 3. And I'm not sure that the Mets won't lose at least one more game against a bad team.
Yeah, and I think you might prove out to be correct. And the other one is the Cardinals. How about the Cardinals?
I love the Cardinals right now.
I mean, they're playing great baseball. Clinched the NL Central for the first time since 2019. Mentioned the last time the Yankees won the American League East was 2019. How about the Cardinals being one of those sneaky teams? It seems like, and it's not all the time, it just kind of, seems that way. When the Cardinals make it to October, they seem to do something, right? It doesn't happen every single time, right? But it feels that way. And you look at a Cardinal team that's playing some of its best baseball at the end of the season here, Keith, and maybe they're a team that, when we talked about teams in the Major League Baseball that can win a World Series, we talked about the Astros, we talked about the Mets, we talked about the Braves, we talked about the Dodgers. We had a number of baseball guests come on and say, well, don't forget about the St. Louis Cardinals. And the Cardinals are playing great right now.
Well, we did our whole exercise of how you can win money no matter what with 4 teams. We put it all out there like 3 weeks ago. The way to hedge that now would be to just throw something on the Cardinals to win the World Series, something very small, a portion of your unit, and you still could end up in the positive money. I love what the Cardinals have become right now. They also are getting healthier. And what's cool too is about this, down the end of this season, Paul Goldschmidt actually has not been their best player. Nolan Arenado has been, and some of the other young guys have been. And Goldie's kind of been good, but not great. He's going to win the NL MVP. You got Arenado's going to be an MVP finalist, top 2, 3, 4 in the voting. Wainwright, being 41 years old, is going to start game 1. You got Yachty, you got Pujols, you got Marmol, who's a 36-year-old manager. This team is built to win. And I also love the fact that they did not rest on any laurels whatsoever. While the Brewers were changing the complexion of their team, trading away Josh Hader, one of the most popular players in that organization, they added Jordan Montgomery. They added Jose Quintana. They got pieces that they said, if and when we make the postseason, these are guys that are going to help us win games. I think the Cardinals are built correctly, and they're scary in the postseason.
Yeah, how, like you mentioned it in terms of how to protect yourself, because that was a great job by you bringing it to our audience about 3 weeks ago, where you ran through it, the potential there of how to handle exact matchups in the World Series of the 4 teams that we talked about potentially winning the World Series, and great work by you. When you look at the Cardinals here, Keith, though, do you just kind of, aside from protecting yourself from a betting perspective, do you put them on the level of the Braves right now? Like, do you think they're just as good as Atlanta, just as good as the Dodgers, just as good as the Mets?
No, but once you're in the postseason, anything can happen. I just wanted to double check that I'm right here. So BetMGM has Cardinals 18-1 odds to win the World Series, 8-1 odds to win the National League and just get to the World Series. So what I would do, the way we had laid it out, remember we did I think it was 1 unit on everything, and we did a money number to it. It was like $10 on everything essentially. You could obviously move it up to 100. If you did 1 unit on all of the, what was it, 8 outcomes, right? You were still going to end up with positive money. So now what I want you to do, if you suddenly believe in the Cardinals, now you're going to take half of whatever your unit size is, and you're going to throw that on the Cardinals to win at 18-1. So you'll still end up with if the Cardinals don't make it to the World Series and don't win, you still end up with a really small amount of profits on all of the other things that we talked about. But if the Cardinals do win, you got 18-1 odds there. So that's how I would hedge my bet just a little bit, and you still end up with positive money.
There you have it. That's the baseball. Let's get into a little NBA. Should we do that next? You know who's going to join us? Brian Geltzahler is going to join us. Sirius XM NBA Radio, NBA TV. We'll talk about, obviously, training camps across the association are opening up. We'll get into Brooklyn, talk a little bit about Milwaukee, Philadelphia, everything when we talk about championship contenders, storylines here as the NBA regular season is just around the corner. Brian Geltzahler joins us next. He's Keith. I'm Moose. The show is Moose and Keith. It's a Wednesday right here on the Bettor Sports Network.
With Simon, JL, and Coop.
JL, I think this is the game everyone's been waiting for, and the moment in this game that we are probably going to have to talk about for at least the next 15 minutes. The Miami Dolphins took down the Buffalo Bills 21-19, and we got to talk about it. The play of the game, the butt punt.
The butt punt.
Punted straight into Trent Sherfield's abyss between his legs is where that
booty
football
patootie.
It was straight up there. It could not have been aimed better up that Tookus. Like, he just went for it. Like, you look at the picture, shout out USA Today photographer that caught that image, because wow, moment of impact, and you can really see just how well aimed between the cheeks that ball was. And Craig said, did y'all see Mark Sanchez's tweet to the punter? I did. Mark Sanchez tweets, stay out of my lane, bro.
That's pretty good.
I love all these self-aware tweets yesterday. Mark Sanchez, Orlovsky, like they're just coming in and like poking fun of themselves.
Yeah.
That's pretty good stuff right there.
Corey, Nando, and Friends, presented by Mayo Media
Back.
on Bettor Sports Network.
Speaking of TV, last night I tried to watch Aaron Judge.
Did you watch the K-Rod broadcast?
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Rodriguez?
Look, I went to ESPN Plus and I'm like, I want to watch this K-Rod thing because they had Roger Clemens and they had Barry Bonds on. Bonds brought up when Clemens hit him on his piece of armor. And
Yeah,
Clemens was like,
exactly.
oh, it was a strike, man. It was a strike.
No,
Like,
Clemens was like, if you wear, and I don't blame Clemens, if you wear that thing, right, that piece of armor, and you on top of the plate like that, target practice. I'm gonna see if I can hit that joint.
And he was, I mean, Clemens, it was a strike. Get off the plate is basically what he said.
Yeah, exactly. Get off the
Could you
plate.
imagine, could you imagine the three of them? Like you're Michael Kay, and you're sitting there with Barry Bonds, Alex Rodriguez,
and Roger.
Three guys who should be in the Hall of Fame and are not. Like who should have been like
wild.
first ballot slam dunk Hall of Famers.
That's the problem with the game.
We should get them on the show. All three of them together on this show.
That'd be cool. Corey, Nando, and Friends. They're the friends.
They're the friends. I mean, why not, right? They seem like nice guys.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
I started watching the Jeffrey Dahmer series on Netflix last night, which I knew a
Oh,
lot.
that looks pretty freaky, man. Is it as frightening and kind of eerie as it looks?
Yeah, it's disturbing. Like, you know, there's no.
You think? He ate people, Ray. It better be disturbing
well,
to you.
I know the story. He ate people and I murders. I knew, but I didn't know he was drunk all the time. And
Well, Ray, I mean, we've all been there. You get the munchies when you're drunk. That would be actually a defense in court. Your Honor, I was drunk the whole time. I was hungry and I needed food and my neighbor was there.
Right.
What am I supposed to do?
I've got, and he had like beer cans all over his place. There was a lot of Miller and Bud. I guess he was not only was he a person of opportunity with the killings, he was a beer drinker of opportunity. Because I don't think you normally do one and the other. You should do one or the other.
I don't want to tell AB or Miller how to do their business, but don't go marketing that Jeffrey Dahmer loves your beer while he was eating kidneys.
I got a check from a shoe company, now I do anything a New Balance say. I bought her a plane to get out of state. I got me a shorty from Roundaway, said I'm in town today. She said she coming over and she down to stay. I got a hit, she been playing it, so when she pull up on me, I know what she about to say. What's poppin'? Brand new whip, just hopped in. I got options, I can pass that like Stockton.
Just Josh.
Board right now, Brian Geltzeiler, Sirius XM NBA Radio, NBA TV. He is fantastic at what he does, and he joins us now. Talk a little NBA as training camps across the association are opening up. Interesting storylines when you look at Brooklyn. Interesting storylines when you look at, say, the Knicks on the East Coast, and who does he like potentially to win a championship this season? As I believe Geltz joins us now. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
How we doing?
What's up, Geltz?
What's up?
You know, Brian, let's start with the Brooklyn Nets. Everything, even with all the drama this summer, Brian, everything is kind of still in front of them, potentially to win an NBA championship this year. What about, all of the positivity you heard from Durant, Nash, and company at their media day the other day?
Well, listen, Mark, and you and I have discussed this both publicly and privately. Kevin Durant got publicly skewered for really, when you look at his reasons for making the trade request / demand he made, they weren't bad reasons. And so I completely and entirely understand where he was coming from. But I will also say this. The tone and tenor at their media day resembled the tone and tenor at the Sixers media day last year, where everybody wanted to talk about tons of things that didn't really involve basketball. And that's hard for players to push their way through. I thought Durant handled it well. I thought Kyrie handled it well. I thought Nash made a very interesting statement, which is essentially that the demand that Durant made for Nash to be fired was somewhat misreported, which is the truth to my understanding, that was not necessarily Sean Marks is one thing. That was not necessarily what Durant was saying. But for the Nets, it was chaos. Now, can they function in that chaos? Can they function well in that chaos? It's possible. It may even be probable. The bottom line is going to be this. Kyrie Irving's got to play 60 to 65 games. Ben Simmons got to play 65 to 70 games. Kevin Durant's got to play 65 to 70 games. You have those three guys on the court. Brooklyn's a top of the conference team, and they will compete for a championship. If you don't have all three of those guys on the court, it's not rocket science here, guys. You don't have
three guys on the court for the amount of games that you need them to be on the court, you're going to be in trouble come the playoffs. The East is just too difficult. So how they conquer the chaos, how they get through it, the way they come together is going to be very interesting because it's a very talented team. And the addition of Simmons, if he plays, and I'm not saying Simmons has to be someone he wasn't with the Sixers, just be the dude you were with the Sixers. You'll fit this team very, very well.
Yeah, play defense, hit a shot every once in a while from down low, and and run an offense. All right, so with the Brooklyn Nets, then you look at this team. If you had to actually guess, you put all those numbers out, Geltz? Do you really think these guys are going to play those types of games?
I do. And I listen, believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy. The one I worry about the most in playing that amount of games is Durant.
Yeah.
A, he's the most important. B, he's the oldest. C, the injury issues have hit him probably harder than they've hit anybody else. I have confidence that Kyrie Irving is going to play that many games as long as he's healthy, because Kyrie Irving's in a contract year and he's looking to get paid. And Kyrie wants to make as much money as he possibly can. That's who Kyrie is. It'll allow him to take the causes that he thinks are more important than basketball and be able to put his money where his mouth is in a big way. Not that he can't now, but the more the merrier for Kyrie. So I think he'll be out there to play. And I do think Ben Simmons has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder here. He's been written off by the large majority of the league. And I think he wants to show that he can still be part of a winning program. You know, Simmons takes pride in the fact that he's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. It's something no one's talked about in over a year. It really is. And even in the Redick interview, he commented about how I shut down the best perimeter player on the Hawks in that series, and no one talked about it. And he's 100% right. So I think Simmons has something to prove there. So those two guys, I think, actually will be more emotionally invested than maybe they ever have been in their career. Durant turning 34 this season, with how they ask him to play, that's going to be very interesting. Listen, one thing I'll say is from a strategic standpoint, Steve Nash is going to have to take the ball out of Durant's hands a little bit and not have him bring it up every single time. I think that demand on him at this age is going to make life harder for him. It's going to make it harder for him to score. It's going to make him likely to get injured. I think you'll see Simmons initiate a lot of offense. I think you'll see Irving initiate a lot of offense. I think you'll even see Seth Curry at times initiate a lot of offense. More Durant off the ball is going to be a more efficient, a healthier, a fresher, and more productive Durant.
Brian, from like a handicapping perspective, right? Like when you look at the Nets' futures, if you were someone looking at Brooklyn, would you be confident that it all comes together this year, or is it more than likely the drama, the nonsense that continues?
Listen, if you go handicapping, Mark, you have to look at it from a different perspective. And I say that in this way. Because of the drama, because of the nonsense, because of the craziness, the chaos, you're going to get a little bit of value there from a betting standpoint. And the upside's there, which is what we look for. Listen, I think Milwaukee's the best team in the conference. I think a healthy Milwaukee beats everybody in the playoffs this year. But if you're asking, but Milwaukee also is at the top of the board. So if you're asking me who to bet, the two teams I would tell you that you can realize the most value because of their upside, one is absolutely Brooklyn. The other one's Philadelphia. You know, I was at Sixer Media Day on Monday, and I sat down and talked to James Harden. I talked to Doc Rivers. I talked to Daryl Morey. That's a very different situation than it was a year ago. That's as healthy could be there. James Harden looked fantastic. Best shape I've ever seen him in. And he was happy. He felt fresh. I mean, granted, hope always springs eternal on Media Day. We know that. But you contrast that with where the Nets were on Media Day, where the Sixers were last year. It's a great situation there. So I think where you can realize some value on the betting board in whoever wins the East, I think Brooklyn and Philly are really probably your two best value bets on the board.
Yeah, Harden is always the X factor there if he's in shape. All right, so
he's in shape. Keith, I will tell you this. I've never seen him look better. Thinnest thing could be. Arms were big, and he said to me that it was the first summer in 3 years he got to work out individually and play pickup, and he said he has not felt this good in 3 years. Hamstring stuff's behind him. He looked like he was in tremendous shape.
And Geltz, that's great for basketball. Like, say what you want about Harden, and I know people complain about the step back travel jumper that he hits, that he has made, something in vogue. He's good for basketball. And I think if the Sixers are a good team, I think that's good for the NBA as well. Would you agree?
I would. And he made an interesting point to me. He said, his role is different than his role in Houston. His role here in Philly is different than his role in Brooklyn or Houston. And what he essentially was saying to me, in Houston, everything was on his shoulders to score all the points. In Brooklyn, he had Kyrie, he had Durant. He didn't have to be that guy, and it was more about getting them the ball in better positions. Here is kind of somewhere in between. He does have a meaningful level of scoring on his shoulders, but he far from all of it because he's not the lead dog. What he said without saying is that an Embiid is the lead dog. I have to involve him, but I have to support him from a scoring standpoint as well. And his comfort level in discussing that role, I think, was very important. Listen, we can't forget this. In an elimination game last year against the Miami Heat in the second round of the playoffs, he took 2 shots in the second half. There's got to be more from him. He's got to be willing to take over games a little bit more often. But I will tell you, with where they are right now and how the vibe I got from the Sixers, I think that the playing together thing is going to be a lot less of a challenge than it was last year.
Brian, I want to ask you about Boston. With the suspension of their head coach, Ime Udoka, how much does that affect it? How important do you some look at head coaches with great importance. Some look at head coaches with not as much importance. How much does the suspension of Udoka affect what the Celtics are looking to accomplish this year and try and get back to the NBA Finals?
Yeah, Mark, I think it's significant. A few points here. Number one, I was very impressed with the candor that came from the Celtics leaders, specifically Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, about how legitimately devastating this Ime Udoka situation is to this team, how they were all kind of caught off guard by it, how it's very upsetting for them. They love Ime Udoka. So, and listen, I always, and you guys probably feel the same way, you don't want to hear canned answers. You want to hear candid answers. And those guys gave you candid answers about how they felt. The other problem is this. So you look at Joe Mazzulla as a 34-year-old head coach. Like Utah's got a 34-year-old head coach in Will Hardy. If Will Hardy makes mistakes in his first season coaching a team, it doesn't matter. It helps. Let him cut his teeth on a bad team. Joe Mazzulla's got a title contender. He doesn't have the option to cut his teeth. And it's very interesting. You hear a lot of rumors about the Celtics potentially putting Frank Vogel on the bench next to him. The name that came up today that Woj reported, Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, is that they're trying to talk to the Clippers about bringing Jay Larranaga over. And to my understanding, Larranaga would like to be there. Point being is this. They want someone on that bench that has experience in the league, a lot of experience in the league, and that can support Joe Mazzulla in a big way. Secondly, and make no bones about this, boys, the other thing is this. If it's not working with Mazzulla, they need somebody they can promote as a head coach to move him aside. Ime Udoka's not coming back this year. I don't think he's coming back ever to coach the Celtics. I think that's over with. So I think for them right now, if they can get that experienced voice in, whether it's Vogel, whether it's Jay Larranaga, somebody on the bench next to Mazzulla, it gives them an option. Make no mistake about it. This Mazzulla thing with a 34-year-old head coach is a forced experiment on the Celtics. And it's one that this team is too good. Ownership spending too much money on this team for them to not abandon this experiment if it's going bad. Joe Mazzulla, for a 34-year-old head coach, does not have a lot of rope here. If this is not going well, they'll pull the plug on him and pull it quick.
Gelch, you're as tuned in as anybody. Will we, or not will we, when will we find out what actually happened behind closed doors with Udoka?
I don't know, Keith. I mean, listen, I have some unconfirmed reports and some people that I spoke to. Frankly, I'd be irresponsible.
Oh, I'm not asking you to tell us what some people have told you. Yeah.
I'd be irresponsible to get into some of the detail that I've been told just because it's not confirmed and we're dealing with people's personal lives. But I will point to this. 2 things I will say about it. Number one, go look at Matt Barnes' Instagram if you haven't. He defended Udoka, deleted what he defended, and came back and said it's 100 times worse than you think it is. From the unconfirmed things that I've been told, I think Matt Barnes is pretty close to accurate there. It's a bad situation. Here's the second thing that's important to note about Ime Udoka and this. A lot of people have piled on the Celtics as they threw Udoka under the bus publicly. If the real story and when the real story comes out, I think what people will discover is the Celtics were actually not only protecting the woman/women involved, they were protecting Ime Udoka as well. It's not a good situation, guys. And when will it come out? I really don't know. It may take a while to come out. It's one of those things where when you have multiple families involved, it's a very, very delicate situation. And this information being public at this stage probably does a whole lot more damage than it does good.
Geltz, want to ask you about the Knicks. 37-45 a year ago, optimism, Brunson in. They didn't get Donovan Mitchell. He's a Cavalier. But you're looking for Randall to bounce back after a subpar season, new contracts for Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. Tom Thibodeau telling everybody he doesn't feel any pressure because he's completely committed to the job. What's your take on what we see from the Knicks this season after what was a disappointing regular season a year ago?
Well, first and foremost, Mark, the Knicks are open for business. Leon Rose made that clear when he sat down with Alan Hahn last week. They're looking to upgrade this roster in an aggressive way. They have draft picks. They have young assets. They have young players. So keep an eye on the Knicks as you come into the deadline, and we hear this one may be available, that one may be available. If the Knicks want them, the Knicks are at the front of the line. So that's the important fact. My concern with the Knicks, and Tom, and Mark, you and I have spoken a ton, and you know how fond I am of Tom professionally and personally. He's an outstanding head coach. You heard from Tom that Evan Fournier is the likely starter at shooting guard. And I just wonder if Tom's propensity to play veteran players to try to win every single game is something that's going to be in line with what the organizational vision is, to try to develop some young players to enhance their trade value, to be able to put guys out there. Listen, the Knicks, they protected Quentin Grimes in a big way in terms of value in those Donovan Mitchell trade talks. And if you love Quentin Grimes that much, and you think him and Barrett together as wings have a future, or if you think Grimes can be developed into a significant trade piece, the minutes have to be there. And in the end, Evan Fournier, I mean, maybe they're playing Evan Fournier because they'd like to get rid of his contract. He's got 2 more guaranteed years. He shot 39% from 3 last year. That could be part of why they're going to look to play Fournier here early. But I would keep an eye on a vet like Fournier. Listen, Randall, as long as Randall's there, he's going to start. He's going to play a lot of minutes. He's going to stand in Toppin's way. That is what it is right now, unless they make a decision on Randall. But I'd watch how Tom handles Fournier to kind of get an idea of where the direction of this team's going to go. Because if they're starting Evan Fournier and they're struggling, 20, 25 games in, and they're below 500, they're 10-15, they're 12-13, and none of it looks great, I think Tom will get some pressure from the front office to relegate, Fournier to a 6-man role and start playing Quentin Grimes in that starting spot. I think the more they play these young guys, the more they use these young guys, even if it's bench or starting or whatever, the better the Knicks are going to be. The Knicks are not ready to be competitive in the Eastern Conference right now. The conference is too tough, and their core guys are just too young. The guys that aren't young, Randall and Fournier, I think they're going to play with the thought of maybe looking to move them, and it's possible if a star's not available, the Knicks will take a step or two back with the thought of loading up on more assets for the ability to take a step forward.
Geltz, I could not agree more with you about the New York Knicks. And I know, Moose and I are both in New York, so a lot of the people that watch this show are in the Northeast, and a lot of them are Knicks fans. I'm not a believer in this Knicks team at all, and I love the Knicks. And the reason why I'm not a believer is I look at the Eastern Conference. You said it, that it's loaded. I don't see how they're top 7 in the East. I think they're probably around 8 or 9.
I think 8 or 9 may be generous, Keith.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice.
Think
people
about
here,
it. All right.
get mad at me here.
Okay, they're not going to be better than Milwaukee.
Right.
Even with all Boston's chaos, they're not going to be better than Boston. They're certainly not better than Philadelphia. They're certainly not better than Miami. They're not going to be better than Brooklyn. Even if Brooklyn struggles with keeping guys on the floor, they're likely to not be better than Brooklyn because of Brooklyn's talent level. They're certainly not going to be better than Cleveland at this point, who just added Donovan Mitchell to a team that made the play-in tournament while they were decimated by injury last year. So they're not going to be better than Cleveland. They're probably not better than Atlanta. So I just went through 7 teams. I think they're in an 8, 9, 10 position with Toronto, who's probably better. Chicago, who may or may not be better. And I mean, 10 is probably where they stand here. They're in that 8, 9, 10 with Toronto, Chicago, and the Knicks. And I don't know that I think the Knicks probably are better than Charlotte. I'm not totally sold on what the Charlotte Hornets have done, and they had a brutal offseason. The whole Miles Bridges thing blew up on them in a bad way, and that's a guy they were counting on. But I do think the 9 I listed are all significantly better than the Knicks. I think 10 is really your best case scenario.
Yeah.
All right, Geltz, let's run over to the Western Conference. What's your take on? Let's start in LA because obviously everyone's looking for LeBron to kind of bounce back this year with the Lakers. Is that conceivable with what they did in the offseason?
Depends what your definition of bouncing back is. I mean, to me, a good season for the Lakers is to not be in the play-in tournament and have a first-round playoff series where they were able to come in as a top 6 seed. But that's going to be hard. Again, you start to list the teams out. The Clippers are the most talented team in the conference. The Warriors won the championship last year. For all the struggles of the Suns, they're completely relevant still. Denver's getting Michael Porter and Jamal Murray back. Dallas is certainly going to be no worse than they were last year. There's a decent chance that they're better. I mean, you start to go through that conference and you realize pretty quickly, could the Lakers ascend to potentially the 6th spot? Well, maybe. The Pelicans are going to have Zion Williamson back, and they played really well last year down the stretch without Zion Williamson. Like, you look at all these things, the Lakers have a lot to conquer.
You didn't even mention the Grizzlies yet.
I didn't even mention the Grizzlies, who, by the way, I think are going to take a step back.
Yes, but they're still good.
They're very good, Keith. And I do think they'll take a step back just because the conference is a little bit tougher. Not having Jaren Jackson the first half of the season will hurt them. They took advantage of a weakened conference last year with the Clippers and Denver having issues. So you're right, they're still a very good team. But I also look at the way this Lakers team is built. I do think it would be great to be able to find a Westbrook deal. But it's not a disaster if they don't. Westbrook hears everything that we've all said. He understands, he gets it. He's a smart guy, and he's in a contract year. Russell Westbrook understands this is the last year he's going to ever earn in the $40 million range. Make $47 million this year. He is going to have to, if he wants to stay in the league, and he could stay in the league 5 or 6 more years, he's going to have to make a transition to more of a role player. And I think if he gets in that mental frame of mind, I think he could be very good at it. Something that came out of Laker media day was Westbrook said, bench starting, I'll live with it. That was not an attitude that he had before all this. They brought in Patrick Beverley, a guy that Westbrook has despised all these years. Did you hear Beverley? Right now, he's my best friend on the team. We've been working out together. Russ wants to make this work. Now, listen, why does he want to make it work? Same reason Kyrie wants to make it work in Brooklyn. It's a contract year, guys. He wants to get another deal. He'd like another meaningful deal. But if he is able to do what he can do to make this work, the Lakers are going to be okay. The Lakers, it all comes down to one guy on the Lakers. We know that LeBron, if he's on the floor, he will be who he is. What's up with Anthony Davis?
Yeah.
Anthony Davis.
Mr. Street Clothes.
Davis. In street clothes, that's him. But he doesn't see the error of his ways and what he does conditioning wise. He still looks at all this stuff, say, oh, it's fluke injuries. At one point or another, you have to change how you go about your offseason routine. He didn't change it, and he was unapologetic about not changing it. And I do worry about Anthony Davis getting through a full year. Guys, is it any coincidence that the best stretch of Anthony Davis's career came in the bubble, where all he had to do was work out, eating food that a training staff was putting on a table for him, and that the discipline was forced on him? It's not a coincidence. Davis, for whatever it is, he enjoys his lifestyle and kind of feels like he can do, bare minimum is probably not the right word to use, but he feels like he can do what he has done routinely, year in and year out, off season out, and still be able to compete at a really high level. You know what? They're going to need Anthony Davis for 65, 70 games. That's a challenge for Anthony Davis right now. So if Anthony Davis is not who he needs to be, because without Anthony Davis, they're a bad defensive team. Even with some of these other guys they brought in, they're still a bad defensive team without Anthony Davis. So the bottom line is this. If you have Davis for 65, 70 games, the Lakers are a factor. They're relevant. Now, are they going to go to the championship? I don't think so. There's too many teams in the conference better than them. But for the Lakers right now, you don't go from not making the play-in game to being a title contender. I don't care how old LeBron James is. The league just doesn't work that way. You have to kind of climb the ladder all over again. They need to make significant progress this year if they're going to ever have a chance to win a title for the rest of LeBron's career.
All right, Keltz, I want to ask you about 2 teams out west. One, Minnesota, the other, New Orleans, with a healthy Zion.
All right, let's start with Minnesota. I'm not the biggest fan of this of this Twin Towers experiment, just because I think you're marginalizing Towns defensively and you're marginalizing Gobert offensively. And to me, Rudy Gobert has so much more to offer offensively than how they ever used him. One of these guys is going to have to chase somebody on the perimeter. The league plays too small. And with Gobert hanging in the dunker spot, you can take a 6'8" wing and hide him on Rudy a little bit and have him not be able to take advantage of that. Don't get me wrong, the Timberwolves are going to be good, but they're probably still just a playing team. They really are. And so they have a lot of talent. I'm just not a fan of this Twin Towers experiment. And by the way, if it doesn't work, it'd be very interesting to watch what they do with Karl Anthony Towns. Because I think at this stage of the game, if it's not working and Towns is getting marginalized a little bit because Gobert is there, I think Karl Anthony Towns could ask out there. That could be the next big star available. The Pelicans are incredibly intriguing. All right. They just re-signed, CJ McCollum to an extension. Brandon Ingram in the playoffs in a series where he was on a basketball court with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. He was the best player on the floor. He was tremendous last year. Now you're going to add Zion back to this mix. And I believe Willie Green's going to use Zion in a very similar way that Stan Van Gundy did, where they're going to have him initiating the offense because of how comfortable CJ McCollum can be playing off the ball. Valanciunas was excellent for them last year. They were able to develop some guys on that bench. This is a team, again, healthy. They got a lot of potential to be really good. There's a ton of upside there with the Pelicans. Again, can they go to the finals? No. But here's the thing about the Pelicans. A successful season would be making it to the second round of the playoffs. And if they're able to do that, now they're building on something to be able to make progress in the future.
Handicap the MVP race for us. Jokic going for a third in a row. You got Doncic, the odds-on favorite, a couple of other big stars as well.
All right, so I would not make a wager on Nikola Jokic, just because what we've learned over the years is the phenomenon of voter fatigue. I just don't know that they're going to turn around and give it to him a third. Two guys I would watch closely, obviously Giannis. Even with him being at the top of the board, you can't look away from him for MVP. And he's 1-2. He didn't win it last year. You could see a scenario with as durable as he is that they absolutely could win MVP. The second guy I'll say is Joel Embiid. Now, again, Embiid, it's not going to be about production, okay? Because when he's on the floor, he's going to produce better than anyone. Games to get there. And I think after last year, there was a little bit of blowback regarding awards and all NBA about amount of games that guys played. I think it's something that voters are going to value a heck of a lot more. And the third guy I would watch, because he is a media darling, and rightfully so. And I do think that with the way his team is situated and how they built it, he's set up to have a massive, massive year, is Luka Doncic. So to me, those are the three guys that I would tell you I would keep an eye on to bet for MVP. Whoever is the best value of those three on the odds board is who I would put money at. But again, Luka to me is the one that's special, because I think there's a lot of media guys out there that would love to cast a vote for Luka for MVP because he's just a media darling.
Luka going to be in better shape this year, Geltz?
Luka looked in great shape in Eurobasket, Mark. He really did. Now, Luka's got a habit of taking a couple of weeks off and loading up on the beers.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, he'll come back 10 pounds heavier and have to play himself back into shape. But when you saw him in Eurobasket, now the thing about him in Eurobasket, he was actually defending well. Like, his energy levels were terrific out there. He played fantastic. So I think Luka's going to be in pretty darn good shape here coming into this year, as long as he doesn't, in the weeks he's taken off between Eurobasket and training camp, as long as he didn't let loose too much. But I think that's an immature thing. And I think as he's getting a little bit older here, he's realizing to compete on an NBA level, that condition 52 weeks a year.
Geltz, last one for me would be, I wanted to ask you, we ran through East-West, right? We talked about Brooklyn, talked about Philadelphia, Harden being in great shape. You're looking at championship odds in the future, NBA title odds. You're looking at Brooklyn right now, 7-1. Sixers are 14-1. If you're looking for a team right now that you think would be a worthwhile investment, where would that be?
I think the Sixers at 14-1 are great value. Much better value than Brooklyn at 7-1. Where are the Clippers, Mark?
Clippers are 7-1.
Okay, that's not bad value for me because they're the most talented team in that conference. And one more I will give you. Where are the Denver Nuggets?
18-1.
There you go. Okay. To me, Philly, Denver give you your best value as a bettor. Realize this about the Denver Nuggets. All right. Listen, last year they went out in the first round of the playoffs. They didn't have Jamal Murray. They didn't have Michael Porter. Murray was out the whole year. They didn't have Michael Porter most of that season. Both of those guys will be back. They don't even really need Michael Porter. When you look at how that roster's built, they made a tremendous trade this offseason. They traded Will Barton. They traded Monty Morris. And I say this, guys, I love Monty Morris. One of my favorite players in the league because he's a grunt work guy. And they brought in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Now they have two wings that can defend in Aaron Gordon, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, that they can shut down multiple perimeter players on the other team. And why is that important? Because Murray and Porter don't have to guard tough perimeter guys. The other thing is this: Jokic is an underrated defender. Jokic is a guy that he doesn't block shots, but he changes shots. He's a very good positional defender. He's developed that part of his game. With the weight loss, gave him a little more bounce and a little more quickness. He is not the sieve defensively he once was. So when you put two premium defenders on the perimeter like Gordon and Caldwell-Pope, and then you have the scoring threats of obviously Jokic as well and Michael Porter, this is an explosive team if they stay healthy, a dangerous team on both sides. 18-1 is a good bargain for them.
Geltz, we've gone 29 minutes with you, and I promise we're going to let you go right now, but we'd be remiss. We didn't even talk about the Warriors at all. Like, how do you view them coming into this season?
Yeah, listen, they won the title last year. You have to look at them as a viable title contender here. And the reason is this. Okay, so first of all, this is a better bench than it was last year, and that's really important. And I know Gary Payton is gone, and I know Toscano Anderson is gone. But you now have, first of all, Kuminga and Moody are going to be a year better. Their bench is going to be better because of those two guys not being rookies and developing over the summer. James Wiseman is back, and I hear the best things about what's going on with James Wiseman right now. And they went out and signed a guy to replace Gary Payton, who's a fantastic fit with this organization, almost as good a fit as Payton is, and Dante DiVincenzo. So you think about that. That's now you go 9 deep after your starting 5 there with a different kind of look than what your starting 5 gives you. The other thing is this you got to remember about them. Klay Thompson played a little over half the season and spent a big chunk of the regular season playing himself back in shape. And he had an uneven season and an uneven playoffs. But he's such a fantastic player that even in uneven playoffs, he had games and nights where he absolutely dominated. Klay is going to be better just for being healthier, for getting his feel back, for everything he dealt with and went through last year. The Warriors, to me, are going to be absolutely fantastic. The biggest problem the Warriors are going to have is how good the rest of the conference is. The fact that the Clippers stay healthy with Kawhi back. I just went over everything about what makes Denver as good as they are. Those are going to be, to me, those two teams are going to be the biggest threats to the Warriors, which was very different last year, where the two biggest threats to the Warriors were Memphis and Phoenix, who I don't think will be as big threats. Phoenix has got a whole lot of chemistry problems there, and I mentioned earlier at Memphis with Jackson out, their bench being a little bit thinner. I think they're going to, not they're going to be bad. They're going to be a very good team still, but I think they'll struggle a little more in conference than they did last year.
Geltz, you're great. We appreciate it. Thanks for spending a half hour with us here and going a little extra time with us. Sirius XM NBA Radio, NBA TV. Check him out on Twitter. He's all over the place. Tremendous NBA insider. Hey, Brian, thanks for the time this morning. We'll talk again soon, all right?
You got it, guys. Look forward to it. Take care.
You got it. He's great.
Yeah,
I love Geltz Seiler. He's awesome. I know you do too. I mean, he's just so good at what he does, and he deserves more. Every opportunity that comes his way, he's earned it. So good to have Geltz Seiler on this morning with us. We got an hour left to play with. We got to get into a little NFL. Talk about some future markets in the National Football League. We'll get into that. It's a busy, action-packed Wednesday. It's Moose and Keith with you right here on the Bettor Sports Network.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
Brandon Staley says Joey Bosa suffered a significant groin injury. My goodness, the Chargers. Dude, I'm out. All right, I do this every year. They suck me in. Every year I'm on the Chargers. And what do? They burn me, man. Burn me. Injuries across the board. How was Justin Herbert in that game late? Why did he even play?
That's a good question.
That line moved significantly. It went down to 3.5. So he said, all right, Herbert's probably not going to play. And then on the scoreboard, it said that Chase Daniel was the starting quarterback. Then the line moved again. And, unbelievable, man. So
how much does it have to suck being that guy that tweeted that out? That, on the video scoreboard during dress rehearsal, Chase Daniel
But when you were reading the tea leaves, you have to be like, you know what? This is not a good play. Like, you can't roll with him. You know he's banged up. There was questions all week. They're a disaster right now. They lost Slater, one of their linemen for the year. They have so many injuries right now. It's the same story with the Chargers every single year, man.
Corey, Nando, and Friends, presented by Mayo Media on Better Sports Network.
Allen Robinson, a dog. Once again, a dog. Allen Robinson. Hard to trust him in your lineup. You know what I'm saying? Hard to
Trust?
him
Like,
in your
I would
lineup.
trust him to do what at this point?
Yeah, exactly. Like, be invisible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This comes from our boy Tommy B. Such an interesting theory. So Tommy would say, and Allen Robinson is like the perfect guy to do this theory with. When a player gets off to a bad start like this, if you drafted highly, don't put him on your bench. Cut him.
Yeah.
Because as long as he's on your team, you're going to think this is the week, and that week is not coming. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're just eating up all of these bad games. So instead of putting them on the bench and keep tempting yourself, just be done with them. Cut them. And that's where I'm at on Allen Robinson right now. Cut him.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
That's the point people miss with Kelsey. They argue there isn't volatility. They argue that he is the dominant dude every week and he gives you an edge every week. And that's why he deserves to be drafted in the second round. He is just that. I get it. He's the best tight end. But Ray, they're acting like every week is a consistent 15, 16, 17 points. It's just not.
At the end of the season, he's going to give you an A+ performance.
No, within the position, he gives you an A+. I don't need an A+ at tight end. I need A+ at running back. I need A+ at wide receiver. I don't need it at tight end, but people think they do. But my argument is, when are people drafting Travis Kelce? People are doing this everywhere, everywhere. And their argument is he's awesome every week. He's the best. We need one tight end. That's it. We need 5 running backs. You're drafting one tight end and you're telling me I got to get the best guy in the second round. I'm going to overpay at a position I don't need. It's just not worth investing in, because even the best guys, they're nowhere near the top 10 on occasion.
All right, we're back.
All right, we are back. I thought we were going to get some music coming out. No music coming out of that break. There we go. We'll technical
No,
issue.
I mean, in the previous break when we went into Geltz, we had Jack Harlow. What's popping?
That's it. You love Jack Harlow, your guy.
He is. Have we worked on getting Blake Griffin on the show, since he's going to be one of the producers of White Man Can't Jump, the new one? Ernie, Keith behind the scenes. We're trying to get me a spot in that movie. Remember?
Yes, I know. Well, the Woody Harrelson character has already been set upon.
Well,
That's
I wanted
That's Jack Harlow.
Right, but I wanted to be Sidney Dean, but apparently that's already cast, which is perfectly fine. Like, I'll be the we going to Sizzler guy, and that's good. I can do that. I guess we wouldn't say Sizzler. What would we say? We going to Fridays? We going to Chili's?
Yeah, we're probably going to Chili's.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I loved a good Sizzler growing up. It was great.
Oh yeah. What was the one?
I'm a big fan of salad bars. I like the salad bar.
Yeah, who doesn't?
As long as it's got the sneeze guard.
Yes, you need
It's got to have the sneeze guard. If there's a salad bar with no sneeze guard.
Yeah, but think about you as a kid. Did you
and
care
gotta
about
have the turnover? You got to keep on bringing out the fresh lettuce. You can't be wilting.
I always wanted as much cheese and bacon as possible in there. I want all the little bacon bit, like and like the fake bacon. I'm fine with it. Whatever. When I was doing that kind of buffet, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, like there was nothing better than having it when you'd have the bacon bits in like the little plastic canister. When I was growing up, it was like you put it on. It was just fake bacon, but it tasted great on a salad.
Well, all right. So popcorn on the table.
Ponderosa, good one, Baby J. Ponderosa was another one. Yes.
Ponderosa was good. All right, so then I'll throw another one out at my people again. I think this is more of a Northeast place, and I know the name. What was the name of the place that they had the little things of popcorn on the table?
Round.
Ground Round. Do you remember how not good the spare ribs were there, but they really were very good?
Yes.
And then speaking of, how about the spare rib? The spare rib was good too.
I don't remember the spare rib.
Oh, there was one by Hofstra. The one not that far from Hofstra.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, but Ground Round was awesome because when you were a kid, that's when you got into weight issues because you basically paid what you weighed.
Oh my God, you're right.
Don't you remember they had the big scale and kids paid what they weighed? So
Yeah.
it was like all of a sudden people are staring at you as you're hopping on the scale.
Oh yeah.
And then they'd have the never-ending popcorn, which was delicious. Like I'm a big fan of. I love movie theater popcorn. I love going to Stu Leonard's. The Stu Leonard's popcorn is just.
Oh yeah.
It gotta get salted. It's great. It's amazing. But the ground round popcorn. I was a big cheeseburger guy growing up. Not surprising there. Cheeseburger and fries.
I mean, I think everyone is. Yeah. All right, so you're going to the movies. You and the boys and Donna are going to the movies, right? You're gonna get the big, huge tub of popcorn.
No doubt.
I want to know how you do it, though. All right, because there's a technique to this.
Well, yeah. Well, I like to have them fill the bucket halfway, then butter, and then fill the rest of it, and then butter the top. You got to layer it.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, like by the time you get to the bottom, it's like there's no butter. Like the
butter, a little cardboardy at the bottom.
Yeah. You got to get that. Like my wife is into like, oh, everyone's getting a small. I'm like a small. Like the kids will be through that before we get through the previews. Like we can't just get a small popcorn. Like I don't feel like running back to the. I don't feel like running back to the concession stand. As the movie's beginning, because that's what it's going to be.
We do this with that, and I'm with you. So we do the big tub, right? We get the little plastic containers on the side. We put all the popcorn for them. I eat as much as I can before the movie starts, and then I go back for the refill, right? I want to get the full refill of the popcorn because you got the biggest tub, you allowed the one free refill, and then I go back in, and that'll last me the rest of the movie now. Boom, I'm done.
Wait. So you get the big tub of popcorn.
Big tub.
Right.
Then mammoth one.
You pound it and then you go back for the refill.
So like you get those little plastic containers on the side, right?
Yes.
So you
divvy it out.
Each kid gets that.
And then you go back for the refill.
Yeah, I make one for Jody. I make one for myself. We've now made 4 of them, right? I put mine to the side and then I eat out of the tub. And then the rest of the previews take forever. They're 20 minutes. So by the time we're like 4 minutes away from the start of the movie, we're halfway done with the tub because I filled these other containers up and I'm eating. I run to the front, I get the refill of the popcorn, and I'm done. Now I'm ready for the rest of the movie.
Love it. That's great.
Also, you can't go to the movies anymore if you don't do recliners. I know it sounds like I'm bougie here, but I will not. I will die on this hill. I will not go to a movie theater.
Aren't they a little bit like, I agree with you about the recliners, but there is an aspect of it because like I've fallen asleep in movies, like because I just lack of sleep.
Sure,
I work. We all work a lot. Like, so there are times where you get into the theater, especially like when it's winter out and the theater's nice and warm and you're on like 4 hours of sleep because you're doing 8 million different jobs and everything like that. So like we went to go see, what was the when the Grinch, they redid the Grinch. Now I'm not talking about Jim Carrey. I'm talking about the cartoon version, which is great. Right. We took Jackson, Donna, Jackson, and myself went to the theaters. The other boys were too young. They stayed home, right? Donna's mom watched the kids and went to the theaters and took Jackson there. And it was myself, Jackson, Donna, right? Recliners. Like 40 minutes into the movie, I'm sleeping and like I'm snoring.
Like real sleeping.
Yeah, like I'm out cold. Like I'm out cold. And then Jackson like gives me the old chop to the ribs, like the poke to the ribs to wake me up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is so comfortable. Like it's almost as comfortable as my bed at home.
Yeah.
Like that's how good those recliners are. I agree with you. They're dangerous though if you're a little bit sleepy. That's all. You gotta have a couple espressos before you get into the theater if you're feeling a little tired.
Yeah, or just, I mean, I don't know, bring your children to go see like Top Gun Maverick instead, like some action-packed movie that you won't fall asleep in. Yeah, just bring them to the inappropriate movies. You're fine.
No, I can't. Yeah, I know. You're right. But I agree with you. Now, Baby J mentioned like, you go to the theaters and you take the straw out and you put the straw into the popcorn and then you put the butter into the straw so then it gets to the bottom of the popcorn.
Oh, I've never done that before.
I've never done that. I feel a little awkward doing that is that really, wouldn't that be a little strange to be doing it at the butter machine?
Yeah, Baby J, you're a weirdo. Yeah, that's what we just
Like,
learned.
isn't that a
Thanks.
little weird? Like, I
Just
get. It's genius, to be honest with you, because I get the effect of it, the straw, but then you have to put the straw in different areas because it's only going to butter that one spot of popcorn. You have to get it all around. The point of putting it and layering the butter is you have it fill it halfway, then you go in, you go all around the popcorn, then you put it on top, then you go all around the popcorn
Yes.
again, a little douse of salt, and away you go.
All right, let's see what kind of high school kid Moose was. All right, Moose, you going to the movies when you were in high school. How baggy were the sweatpants, and how much candy and junk food did you sneak in your sweatpants, right?
Mike
in your
and Ike's
hoodie and
guy.
stuff.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt. Yeah, I wore baggy sweats, baggy
Yep.
jeans. You know, that was like the look back
And-
then.
And you
Everything's
walk slow so that the
Yeah.
candy's not making noise.
Yeah, that's correct. Right. That's it. I was like a huge Mike and Ike guy. Like we went to go. I love bringing in Mike and Ike's. I like the fruit chews, like the jujubes. Yeah, that's what they're called, right?
I think
Juju
so, yeah.
fruits or whatever it's called. Yeah, jelly beans, all that
Swedish
kind of stuff.
fish, yeah.
Yeah, Swedish fish, amazing. I mean, like that's great. Like, but there's nothing worse like when it's not a packed theater. And you have like the
Crack open your can of soda.
yeah. You have like the box of Mike and Ike's, and it's like an emotional scene, and you're like, and you're throwing it into your.
Dude, I still literally. I remember being like, I'd have like a can of soda in my sweatpants, right? And I would like wait for the right time. And this is, I kid you not, this is what I would do. I would go 1, 2, 3, like that as I'm like opening it so that people don't hear. Because as a 17, 8-year-old kid, you're sneaking all that stuff in. But
Yeah,
you're
because
also,
the
in the back of your
theater.
mind, you're like, I know I'm doing something that's not necessarily right.
Yeah, but how many times? Well, let me ask you this: were you one that jumped hop theaters?
Yes.
Yes, no doubt. Where you would line it up with your buddies to where, like, all right, let's go see a double feature, and you'd time it out to where one movie ended, or even if you had to leave that movie right toward the tail end, you knew what happened, and then hop in another theater and see a new movie.
100%. By the way, Baby
Yes.
J, that's hilarious. He snuck 3 beers into the movies. Pretty funny. One of my early dates with Jody, we went to see, I don't remember what the movie was that we saw. It was an early on movie, not like the first date. And what was it? What was the Michael Cera Superbad was in the theaters, and Superbad had literally just started. Like 6 minutes had gone by. I'm like, Jody, let's go in. And she is like goody two shoes. No, I'm not doing that. I can't do it. I'm like, come on, let's go. And again, like in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, maybe it's not the best idea. This is what I'm showing you, but I'm going to, put your cards on table. This is who I am. I'm, a 25-year-old, whatever. So we sneak in, we sit there. She could not enjoy the movie at all. She was uncomfortable the entire time. She was a little disappointed in me afterwards and disappointed in herself. Luckily, she still married me. But yeah, that was pretty early on in our relationship.
Yeah, I've never done it with Don. I did it was like 15, 16, 17, whatever it was like then. But
wait,
yeah,
so 25 years old is too old? Oops.
a little old. Like I don't know if I'd be doing it now with my kids. Like let's go see a double feature and hop in theaters. Like I don't know if I did that, but I did that when I was younger.
Now I want to do that with my kids. What?
Yeah.
Would you think less of me if I told you that I did that?
Let me ask you this: like now, wouldn't you be like afraid of like, say, if they caught you and you're Keith Irizarry from MLB and Better Sports Network, and you're hopping theaters?
I'm not gonna do it. All right. Anyway, you can't do it anymore because I'm way too bougie and I only go to recliner seats and you have a specific seat you're allowed to sit in. So
They're
I can't
all
do it anymore.
recliner seats. Like, do you drink alcohol at theaters?
No.
No, neither do I. Like, that to me doesn't like. I want to like to me when I go to the theaters, it's all about candy, popcorn, and a Coke or a Diet
Although,
Coke.
have you done dinner at a theater yet?
No.
The kids will enjoy it. No, the kids would enjoy it though.
Well, no, we have not done that. Like, I
All
find it like, dude, like I don't know if I could sit there and eat a hot dog or chicken. Isn't it a little bit too much? Like
No,
when you're
we
eating
went-
chicken nuggets and fries at a theater trying to watch it. Then you're worried about where the ketchup is. And then you got to clean up. Like, I don't want to be sitting there smelling ketchup or honey mustard for the next hour and a half of my life as I'm trying to watch some, emotional movie and trying to bring me and make me feel like what life is really all about. I don't know if I want to do that. Like, I'm fine with the popcorn.
No, I'm going to we did it. We got, Jody and I each got a salad. The boys got, I think, cheeseburgers.
You
We
ate
shared
a
some
salad
fries.
at a movie?
There's a gourmet not that far from me, maybe like 20 minutes away. They have like a legit chefs and stuff like that. It's like a gourmet style thing. Yeah. No, it was like I got a chopped salad.
I gotta move to Long Island.
It's where it's at. Long
That's
Island.
where I gotta move. I don't have any gourmet salad places at the movie theater.
Well,
They'll throw a couple of hot dogs at you.
No, yeah, one of the places, man. It's like they have like it's like a 5-star like feel is what they say to it. It's not really 5-star restaurant, but it's like a 5-star feel to it. Like you get real food. They've like appetizers. Like it's a real menu. I mean, it gets pricey, but you know what? Like it's a night out.
Like the shrimp cocktail.
I mean, like things like that. It's more
mozzarella sticks.
Yeah, it's more like fattening type of stuff. Like you
Okay.
could get the like loaded French fries. They're one of the places they have tacos and like quesadillas and stuff like that.
Oh, the Alamo Draft House in Yonkers. Thank you, Baby J.
That's
Yeah,
where we're
maybe I could
going.
try. No, that's where he said is your place where you could order food. The Alamo Draft House. I've never done that, but like maybe I should take the kids there one day. I'd be worried about the food going all over the place. Like I'm in a position now where the kids fight over everything. Like, and I could just see chicken nuggets and fries, like one hitting the other, the fries and nuggets going all over the place, and then it's a massive cleanup.
Put ponchos on them.
Yeah, then it's embarrassing. It's a massive cleanup. Like it's one thing with the popcorn, like when you take the popcorn, you throw a kernel at one of your brothers. Like there's another thing if they start throwing like a loaded chicken nugget with ketchup and honey mustard at one another.
Yeah.
But my kids are great, Keith. I just want to tell you, lovely boys.
Yeah. No. Love my kids, but hey, we had a fantasy question in here. Let's pull this back up, which not for us, by the way. Apparently, our fans are now bypassing you and me and asking Mrs. Jessica for fantasy advice, meaning Jessica Brandon in our chat. JM, oh, this is Jason, I think. This is Jay who calls our show. I need a backup tight end. Knox and Njoku or Everett, all available. Who would you pick up? I go Njoku. Oh, no. No, you wrote Knox there? No, you go Knox, the best offense. Take the best offense. I also don't know why you need a backup tight end. Can we discuss this? Hey, can we get into, like, unless you have 7 people on your bench, why are you... all right, there's only a few reasons to have a backup tight end. All right, and I'm going to stare right at the camera for all of you to pay attention to. And there's just way too many people out there. They're stashing people on their rosters. That's not even necessary. If you have 7 players on your bench, okay, fine. Or if you have like a 16-team league and you want to make sure that you have a backup tight end for your bye week, but stop stashing tight ends. Backup tight ends are not necessary. It's called streaming. If you don't know what it is, Google it. It's not that difficult. Stream your tight ends. Stream your defenses. Most leagues, I don't know why this angers me so much. Why are people having like 2 backup quarterbacks and a backup tight end? Oh, I get it. Because now I'll be able to trade somebody. No, everyone else in your league is smarter than you. That's what you're telling me. No one's trading you. Oh, but I'll offer you my backup QB and, my 3rd running back for your starting QB. And then you're going to have to drop 2 players off your roster because it's a 3-for-1 trade. Stop.
Agreed with you. A backup tight end, unless you were able to get both Mark Andrews and George Kittle.
Calm down. All right.
Backup kicker makes no sense. Backup defense makes no sense either.
Wally, you got that offer this morning. Exactly. Like, why are people... that's another thing with the trades. I love when they'll DM me or hey, so I'm thinking about doing this trade, right? I'm going to offer... I just picked up Jared Goff off the waivers. So I'm going to offer Jared Goff and I'm going to offer Tyson Algier, who I got off waivers also 2 weeks ago. And then I'm going to give up Jerry Jeudy, who's injured right now. And I'm going to offer that for Mahomes. He'll take that, right? Yeah. Why? Would you? Yeah, but like, Think about it. He's getting depth. Depth is cool. Mahomes is one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks in fantasy football. Come on.
Yeah, I got offered a trade in one of my leagues yesterday. Hines from the Colts for Joe Mixon. I'm like,
yeah, you should totally do it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, come on, people.
Like my team is. I understand my team's 0-3 and they're terrible. Why would I do that? Like why? Like on God's green earth, why would I do that? Why would I? And why would I ever do that? Jonathan Taylor's the lead back in Indianapolis. I'm not doing that. He's not going unless he gets hurt. I'm not doing it. Watch Taylor blow out his knee this weekend. But I mean, the point being is that, I would never do that trade. But people make moronic trade offers all the time.
I mean, I guess they're hoping that you answer. Wally, all right, put it in the chat. I want to know what the offer was that you got this morning, because I want to react to the silliness that you got offered. Now, the Joe Mixon thing, by the way, Moose, if you were is this a keeper league at least?
It is.
Okay, so in a keeper league, let's say for argument's sake, Moose, you're 0-3 and you can no longer keep Joe Mixon. You've run the gamut and there's no more years left to keep Mixon, right? And someone looks at you and goes, Moose's team isn't that good this year. I could win a league if I have Mixon as my running back. Then it's got to be someone I'm going to keep. Naheem Hines is someone that, like, in most leagues wasn't drafted. And if he was drafted, it was the end of the draft.
That's where I was like, I looked at
offer me Dameon Pierce. You offer me Dameon Pierce for Joe Mixon. Now we're having a conversation now.
Yeah, I might actually take that. I might actually do that because I do like Pierce down with the Houston Texans, but I'm not making that trade. But I feel like people look at it to where, number one, they feel like you're desperate, willing to do anything because you're off to an 0-3 year, an 0-3 start to the season. So you're looking to shake things up. Yeah, I'm looking to shake things up to try and procure and bring in better talent than what I have.
Yeah. All right, Wally. So your trade offer, I'm assuming the person wanted Derek Jones.
No, he has Derrick Henry, right? So he's trading.
Okay.
It would be Derrick Henry, Zay Jones for Johnson, the wide receiver from Pittsburgh, David Montgomery, Michael Carter.
All right, so clearly this person is like, Derrick Henry, they finally gave him the ball last week. Let me see if I can weasel him away from you, Wally.
I'm not making that trade. Montgomery's hurt, too.
Montgomery's hurt. Michael Carter's the backup in New York. Again, he plays for the Jets. You don't want Jets.
And the Steelers don't have a quarterback.
I know. I'm throwing the football to Deontay Johnson. Come on. Oh, it was Baby J with the trade offer. That would be hilarious. That would be awesome. You know what? I stand corrected. We do want Garrett Wilson. We want shares of Garrett Wilson.
Yes. You can't make that trade. Hold on to Henry and Zay Jones. Plus, we talked about Trevor Lawrence is coming off a huge fantasy week, and that offense is just going to get more and more explosive and better as this season goes along. I mean, you can't make that trade.
No, trades are difficult to make in fantasy football. The only way the trades really work, honestly, are in keeper leagues where one team is like 1-5 and they're building towards the next season. That's where trades can happen and can be even for both teams, because one team is like, all right, I know I'm out and I'm building for next year. It's like real NFL, and one team is building to win right now. The
Baby Jay, you should be I agree with Jay Kabasi. He was trying to rob you. I mean, really, he was. I mean, that is a terrible trade.
I will say this.
Here's the thing. Baby J did not respect Wally. He really did not. He thought he could pull one over on Wally and that he could basically rip him off in a deal and then mock him afterward.
Let's bring back a white man can't jump line. He's a chump. He thought he was a chump.
Right.
You know
what I love about that when in that opening scene, or when was it when Woody Harrelson goes, it's so hard to make something like this look this bad.
It was the opening shooting scene where they're
Yeah.
They go on the court and Woody Harrelson's like, I'm not gonna lie, it's not my spot. I'm gonna be lucky to hit 2 or 3 here. I'm gonna be lucky, but I'm gonna try it. And then he says, it's like the luck of the Irish. Only I'm not Irish. You go figure.
It's Moose and Keith with you. We're taking you right up until high noon. When we come back, we'll get into some other things. We might have another guest that pops on at some point over the last half hour. We'll get into a little NFL conversation, talk a little knockout as well on a Wednesday too. It's Moose, it's Keith, it's Bettor Sports Network.
Bettor Sports Network, it's sports talk done better.
You can't be happy if you're a fan of Denver right now. I know they're 2-1. They look horrendous, man.
Well, how about this player? I almost put him in, and then last second took him out, figured I'd give him another week. What about Javonte Williams? Would he be a trend down type of player at this point? He's still getting the carries. He's running all right. He's just not scoring. That's the problem. And the big thing is when you look at his production from a total basis, 11 passes week 1? It was a lot.
I think you stay the course with him. I know, again, people are so frustrated. Guys, why are you surprised, man? We all know Javonte Williams is the best player in that backfield. It's clear. But people who play fantasy need to understand and I said this before the year, there are certain players that coaches love. Melvin Gordon is one of those players. Is he as dynamic, explosive? No. But he does a lot of the little things that coaches love. Those guys are going to get their touches. You have to understand that. So should Javonte Williams be the main back? Yeah. And we've started to see it shift a little bit. I know you're frustrated because Gordon got the touchdown, but I don't know why you're surprised by this. They told you this before the year. It was more like 50-50 last year. It's not now. You can't sit here and complain about it. Like, you act like this came out of nowhere. I can't believe Melvin Gordon is playing snaps.
You're not talking about me, are you?
No. Anyone who is sitting there and is just stunned that Javonte Williams is not getting, like, all these snaps. Now, could it get better as the season goes along and they start to go, you know what? Javonte's more explosive. We need him on the field now. I mean, they're 2-1, okay? So that's the problem with some of these teams that win games. They think, oh, we won, so everything is good. But let's look at the snaps. So Javonte Williams played 33. Melvin Gordon played 28. The biggest problem is Mike Boone played 14. That I don't get. Javonte Williams and Gordon each ran 13 routes. Boone, 11. 5 targets for Williams, 6 for Melvin Gordon. Javonte had 15 carries. Gordon, 12. Javonte Williams had 20 looks. So he had 15 carries, 5 targets, and he caught 3 passes. So he had 18 touches. You're going to complain about a running back getting 18 touches? Come on, man. He's better than Melvin Gordon, no doubt. But Javonte's not getting 35 touches. They had the ball a lot last night. Does it suck that they took him out near the goal line? Absolutely.
Straight eye formation. They hand it up to Gordon, running left. Gordon into the end zone. Touchdown, Denver.
This is not anything shocking here.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
Let's go. Ho. Uh-huh. Ho. You are not ready.
I noticed your camera's like perfectly centered. I got to work on my camera setup.
It's The Rock.
You gotta like duck down. That's what I gotta do.
I mean,
otherwise, like if I sit up straight, like and I've got a big head, my head gets cut off.
Let me get
I know. That's what I got to start doing. Anyway, it's Moose and Keith with you here on this Wednesday on the Bettor Sports Network. Let's get into some NFL future conversation, Keith, a little bit and talk a little bit about MVP odds right now, because I think it's intriguing where obviously everyone came into the season expecting big things from the Buffalo Bills. And, you know, despite their loss to the Miami Dolphins on Sunday, you know, the expectation is obviously still you know, that they are the class of the AFC. But when you look at MVP odds in the National Football League right now, according to DraftKings, Allen is at plus 300. Jalen Hurts is 6-1. Lamar Jackson 7-1. Mahomes 7-1. Tua is 14-1. I think really the kind of the central focus right now, and it should be, would be on the 3 players at the top of the betting market. What Lamar Jackson is doing right now for the Baltimore Ravens is historical. There's no doubt what he's doing offensively as he bet on himself, looking for that long-term deal with the Baltimore Ravens. We've talked time and time again over the first 3 weeks of this NFL season of just how good Jalen Hurts has been for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then you look at Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills. It's intriguing. The guy that I would be most intrigued by, not to discount any of the other 2. It's not insulting. They're all great. We all realize that. I'm intrigued by Hurts in Philadelphia at 6-1. Like, I don't know if that's a good play or a bad play. Like, I think the time probably to bet Hurts would have been before the start of the season, but I was not a Jalen Hurts believer before the start of the year. So if you were, and you were Keith, you obviously would have gotten better odds on Jalen Hurts than you are getting right now. I'm intrigued by Hurts right now. I think you probably missed the value on Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I think Lamar Jackson is probably the most valuable right now at 7-1 because, number one, he's won an MVP in the league before. He is that entire Baltimore Ravens team. He's coming off a game in which he completely embarrassed Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. They easily should be 3-0 if not for that unbelievable comeback for the Miami Dolphins. I would never take Josh Allen at 3-1. Understand why he's the betting favorite. To me, the guy that has the most value right now would be Jackson at 7-1.
You were never getting value on Allen, right? I think he opened at 4-1, went to plus 350, now 3-1 odds. No value on Josh Allen. The only reason you bet him for MVP is because you want to be in the futures market. That is literally the only reason. Now, something that we talked about yesterday with Sean Zerillo was the idea of a portfolio, right? So now if you're going to open a portfolio for the futures market in the MVP, you needed to, one, do it either in before the season or in right after week 1. Now might be a little bit too late. I would say the best value on the board, you're right, it's Lamar Jackson, because I think that's going to drop even lower because I like Lamar this week against Buffalo. I think he's going to be able to take advantage of that beleaguered secondary, throw the ball around and put up more fantasy numbers for you, more video game type of numbers, even if Baltimore loses that game. Tua, I see in there, better boss. Wish I took Tua MVP 70-1 in the offseason. Yeah, that would have been great. I'm a little worried about his injury issues right now. Like, I don't know what he's going to be over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, but can you really honestly see Tua winning the MVP of the league? I mean, you would have to have a massive drop-off from Allen, just from that.
No, John, and that's the thing that, like, I don't like to speak things into existence. Injuries are going to be something that would curtail him from being the MVP.
Yeah, that would be the massive concern for me looking at the
because in a loss last week, he still had 400 passing yards.
Yeah, he did. I get it. I'm just looking at kind of the player. Miami would obviously have to have an unbelievable season. They're well on their way, right? So I mean, they're 3-0 to begin the year. Are the Miami Dolphins taking down the Patriots, taking down the Ravens, and then beating the Buffalo Bills? So. Good on Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins. I don't know if I look at Tua. I mean, 70-1 is one thing. I don't know. I would never look at Tua right now at 14-1, I believe he is, to win the MVP of the league. I think you'd have to see the considerable drop off, injury to Lamar Jackson, drop off with Jalen Hurts, drop off with Josh Allen.
I'm going to open up my, let's go. We're doing DraftKings right now. All right. I'm going to open up my DraftKings app. I want to take a look at lower than 14-1 odds and see if there's anybody there. If this opens up and cool. It's not. I don't really see there's no wide receivers except for like a Cooper Kupp, but I don't think he's going to have the magical season he had last year. I think we're already seeing that Justin Jefferson is probably not going to have, the most astronomically crazy season. This really feels like a quarterback year. So I think it's the three guys that run, and then Mahomes is fourth. Tua, you've lost all your value.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence right now 33-1. Russell Wilson 40-1. Let's see who else you want to see.
Russell Wilson may not be playable right now in fantasy. Like if you have a better option, like he's someone that you bench and you stream someone until you figure out if he can actually do things in Denver.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't. He and Brady are two of the guys, as well as Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers. I mean, three quarterbacks that you would think would be mainstays in your fantasy lineups, and that is not really the case. Cooper Kupp right now is 66-1.
I mean, it's good value. He ain't gonna win it. No wide receiver's ever done it. Thank you, Jessica Brand. But yeah, I mean, it's good value.
I think the guy. Where would I be? Honestly, I think the markets are right now. I don't know. I mean, I think when you look at Allen, Jackson, Hurts, Mahomes being your top four betting interest, I think that's kind of zeroed in on them because we talked about how good Philadelphia is. There's a lot of public love on the Philadelphia Eagles. What you've seen so far in a lot of the futures markets, they've been the most impressive team in the NFC. You look at the Buffalo Bills, Allen, everyone thinks this is going to be kind of the year in which he is crowned. After the disappointing loss last year to the Chiefs in the divisional round. And then you look at Lamar, who's just I mean, Lamar is just different. I mean, he's just amazingly fun to watch. Does it a bit differently. Like the best way you explain Lamar Jackson is, yes, he's a quarterback. He's a great football player.
Yeah.
Like he's just an amazing football player that has a deep understanding of what it takes to win and is willing to do anything it takes to win. I understand the negatives about him being a pocket passer, being accurate enough, keep him in the pocket. Well, it's very, very difficult to do. He can beat you in a lot of different ways. Didn't beat the Jets opening week with his legs. He beat them with his arm.
How about this? All right, so while we're doing futures, check this out. So FanDuel has on their list of specials, right? You can go futures, you can go specials. And these are players to lead in categories. So Josh Allen to lead in passing yards is plus 350. Herbert is second at plus 450. Mahomes at plus 550. And then you've got guys like Tua, Burrow, Carr, and Hurts after that. So not a crazy amount of value here, but I think that Mahomes leading in passing yards would be intriguing with the third shortest odds.
I would think so. I'd agree with that. I think that's a fair assessment.
All right, so that's that one. Let's show less on there. Let's take a quick look. I think this is fun because this will be a baseline for us to check out a little bit later in the season too. All right, most rushing yards without looking. Who do you think is the leader in the clubhouse right now?
Saquon.
Saquon's third, 5-1 odds. Good guess. Jonathan Taylor is second. Nick Chubb is 3-1 odds right now. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's been going off. Now, if you believe in Derrick Henry, let's say you think that Derrick Henry last week was finally what you're going to see from him, and you're like, all right, let's go. Derrick Henry's 14-1 odds. There's your value.
That is good. That is good value.
Yep.
That is. Yeah. I mean, Taylor's at 286. Saquon's got 317. You mentioned Nick Chubb leading the way right now with 341 yards on the ground for the Cleveland Browns. But that would be good value if you believe in Derrick Henry and you think he's going to get better and stronger as this season goes along. And the Titans righted the ship against what is a really disappointing Raider team last week.
All right, let's go to receivers now.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that this person has the shortest odds right now. So I'll do it again, and everyone in our chat can write it quick. I'll give a pause for a second before I actually give an answer. So most regular season receiving yards for this year. The shortest odds are plus 550. Next is 7-1 for two guys, and then 850 and 850 plus 850 for those two guys, and 14-1 for the next one. So what do you guys in the chat got? And
Diggs.
then Moose, you'll guess too. You got Diggs? All right, yeah. Moose is guessing Diggs. Anybody in the chat? I'll give you a second to guess before I give it up, and I'm hoping that you all are not cheating. I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No one's written anything. It is Diggs plus 550.
There you go.
And then Jefferson and Kupp are 7-1s. Waddle and Hill are both plus 850. You got Jamar Chase at 14-1, AJ Brown at 14-1.
I would take AJ Brown.
Right? That's the best value there.
I think AJ Brown's the best value.
How about, all right, I got one more that may be good value.
Or I think another one. Where's Cortland Sutton on that list?
16-1. How about Devontae Adams at 20-1 odds? Assuming that this Raiders team can kind of right the ship a little bit, 0-3, they really should be 1-2 or 2-1. They gave away one game for sure, should have won the other game as well. And assuming that they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, they might be down a few times. Adams at 20-1 odds is not brutal.
That's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. With especially if you think they're going to be throwing a lot, trailing a lot of games. Devontae Adams getting those kind of odds at 20-1. You understand why Diggs is, because it's the best offense on what is perceived to be the best team, and he's got a special connection with his quarterback, Josh Allen. So you understand why Diggs is leading the market. What, plus 550, you said, right?
Yeah, Diggs is plus 550. How about Lamar Jackson is 25-1 odds to lead the NFL in rushing yards? That would be crazy.
Where are you going this week, Keith, when you look at knockout pools?
All right,
you bought back in, right?
I did. I bought back in. So I have two that I'm looking at right now, and I know that Belichick should scare people, but the Packers at home against the Patriots, 9.5-point favorites. Looks like Green Bay starting to figure it out a little bit. I like Green Bay against them. I would love some clarity on DeAndre Swift, but I still like the Lions against the Seahawks too. Those are the two that I'm looking at least sitting here on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm with you on Green Bay. I'm with you. I mean, that's the way I would go. I'd go with the Packers. I I agree about the Lions. Another one would be, I know they're on the road, just based on kind of what we have seen here, disappointing performance, bounce back the next week. The Chargers on the road in Houston against the Texans. I know it's a little iffy dealing with the rib injury with Justin Herbert, but they got thoroughly embarrassed at home by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now they go on the road taking on a Houston team. I'd be intrigued by that, but who knows? I mean, that's where I think the Chargers are an interesting one, but I think the Packers obviously lead the way.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Let's welcome aboard right now. Anthony McCarron's hopped on the board. He's with us now. Look at the setup. Look at the books in the background. I mean, you're just looking sharp with the glasses on. He covers baseball for SNY, longtime newspaper reporter in New York, Daily News, and others. Great guy and knows baseball backwards and forwards. Anthony, thanks for the time this morning. We appreciate it.
You bet, Moose. I'm wearing my Exit Velo City shirt just for the occasion, too.
Yeah. you love that exit velocity.
I love Exit Velo. I can't get enough.
Anthony, Keith and I spent a lot of time talking about Judge, and obviously the Yankees. They accomplished their feat. They win the American League East, and Keith made a great point earlier in the show, which is, as we've all focused on Judge in 61. Kind of that's taken the focus off the way that the Yankees have played as of late, which they played a lot better baseball as of late. You feel better about this Yankee team, 8 games to go in the regular season, of being the team or one of the teams along with the Astros in the American League to get to the Fall Classic?
Yes, Moose, and I'll tell you, for a long time there, the Yankees gave you a lot of reasons not to like them and not to like their chances because they just seem to have so many problems. And I know they've overcome a lot of obstacles this year and injuries and all that sort of stuff. And that's great. And we've all had, I like the way you put it, Judge is like a distraction from all that stuff because we're watching this incredible spectacle. But to me, a huge thing over the past few weeks has been the sort of reemergence of Gleyber Torres. He was a guy who looked like his career had stalled. I didn't think he was going to be on the roster next year. They already discussed him, according to a bunch of reports out there, at the trade deadline when they were looking for some pitching, and they put his name in deals. So that was a sign, and he really has sort of flattened a little bit since his incredible 38 home run season a couple of years ago. But now he's back to hitting the ball the other way with power. He looks like a different player from earlier this season, and what an addition to that lineup. I think we're all waiting to see what they can actually accomplish offensively against the good pitching that they'll see in October. And another element, where you're not just relying on Judge doing every single thing or Stanton hitting getting hot and carrying the team. Now there's this other guy who could actually provide some production. I think it's huge. So that has really changed my my outlook on the Yanks for sure.
Yeah, and I've loved the lineup too, with Judge leading off and Rizzo batting second. Rizzo looks to be really comfortable getting some pitches to actually hit from a betting standpoint. He's knocking through the total base prop there. All right, so from the Yankees to the Mets, give us the pulse of New York right now from a fan standpoint. What's the panic meter for the Mets now that they wake up today tied atop the NL East?
Well, for those Met fans who are obsessed with the past, I think they're really feeling antsy. Because of the 07 and 08 seasons where they faded at the end. And I think they think this is a repeat. I don't think it's a repeat of that. I think there's a few things going on with the Mets, and their fans are wound up a little bit. Some of them, I think there are some of them who realize that the Mets are a very, very good team. And even if they don't win the division, they still will have a lot to say about who comes out of the National League and gets into the World Series this year. But I do feel like there are some people who, doing some serious hand-wringing, some serious woe is us Mets fans. And I just think this is a different team than we've seen over the past few years, and even dating back to those teams that collapsed. And, you want them to win the division because you want the bye, and all that can bring an older pitching staff, certainly the top two guys. But, there's a path to the World Series and beyond for them through the wild card if it has to be that way.
It is with DeGrom and Scherzer. I mean, that's really what the great separator when you look at those two. Now, that separator gets diminished, though, Anthony, if you do not win the National League East. Like if if you're not able to set up your staff properly, you hinder your chances. And I agree with you, Anthony. I think Keith as well. We talked about the Mets being a World Series contender, so we're all in agreement here. But if you don't win that division, you're hampering your chances.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's going to be harder, and you're going to use up, some of the gas that's in the tank for those two guys that you mentioned. And that's a problem. It's not an ideal situation, and you do go in a little bit compromised to the next rung of playoffs. But strange things happen in October. We've seen it all along where the big heavyweight is all of a sudden gone. And because of the short nature of some of these series, and the team that is hot at the right time is the one that we're talking about for years afterwards, because they're the club that got it done. So I don't. It's not fatal to the Mets if they don't win the division. It's not great, but it's also not the end of the line. And this Met team has come back all year. They have done what's necessary all year. Sometimes I feel like their lineup is faded a little bit, and that's just part of their kind of identity. They have to string hits together because they don't have four guys who have 35 homers, and that's part of their problem. They have Pete, who's hitting homers. They have Lindor, who's got some home runs, and some other guys get them here and there, but it's not this overwhelming part of their offense the way it is for, say, the Braves and the Yankees. So that could be a danger. You need a laser in October every now and then to get you out of a scoreless game where nobody's hitting with runners in scoring position. For the Mets to thrive, they have to do that. They've got to string a bunch of singles together. So, we'll watch out and we'll see how that goes against the better pitching of contenders. But I also don't like what the Mets have done against the weak part of their schedule here with kind of this smorgasbord of opportunity in front of them. They haven't responded, and that's not great. You're hoping that it's just a lull if you're a Met fan, just the part of the natural rhythms of the season. But if it's, if it's an example of the Mets not getting it done when they need to get it done, well, that doesn't make you feel good about October either.
Yeah, the Mets had a chance to, just put their imprint and end this. And I know the Braves have won 97 games just like they have too. All right, so as we are like 7-8 games away from actually getting into the playoffs, what's your hierarchy, American League and National League, as you go into the playoffs? What would be your order of teams you feel comfortable winning the World Series?
Well, let's see. I still think that the Dodgers are so unbelievably good that they've got to be number one by a lot. But they're also, to me, in a tougher league. So their path may not be as easy as the Astros' path, for instance, or even the Yankees. I know every Yankee fan in the world thinks that the Astros, somebody better take out the Astros for the Yankees to get there. I don't know if that's true. It's a short series. When they eventually meet, can the Yankees win 4 out of 7? Maybe. I don't love their chances against Houston, but I don't hate them that much either. But I would say that Dodgers are number one. Then I'm going to go, let's see. I'm going to go hard on National League here. I would think that the Braves would be the second team in my rankings. Then I'll go Houston. Then I'll go Mets. Then I'll go Yankees, and then it gets a little muddier. The Cardinals, this seems like one of those, I said this to somebody the other day, this seems like one of those annoying Cardinal teams, good enough to get there, good enough to probably be a thorn in October as well, and may even be a surprise, good enough to surprise everybody and kind of get out of the National League as well. I'm not predicting that, but they are pretty good. They've got a lot going for them. They got a little Albert magic working too. Yeah. So, I'm looking at those teams. Some of the younger teams in the American League might not know enough to be scared and, to quake and, because the big bad Astros, they always get there, we have to play them. What are we going to do? Like the Blue Jays. I don't think the Blue Jays particularly care what anybody thinks of them. And so I think they can be dangerous too.
Anthony, does the strikeout or bust take, now it hasn't affect them in the regular season, what they've hit, I believe 233 home runs as a team, right around that number. When you look at the Braves, but their penchant for hitting home runs, reliance on hitting home runs offensively, Does that trouble you about when you think about them come October? I know they won the World Series a year ago.
It doesn't, and I'll tell you why. I don't have the numbers in front of me, Moose, but it's pretty clear that home runs are insanely valuable in the postseason, and that if you are a good home run hitting team during the regular season, and yeah, maybe you feasted on some of the bad pitching staffs, but if you still have that talent and that power to hit home runs, you can still do a lot of damage in October games. I feel like sometimes we think that that the playoff games are only won by the team that gets a single, gets a guy over, gets another single and then hits a sac fly, and or gets a couple of hits with runners in scoring position. That's not the only way that games are won in the playoffs. So I with the way the Braves can pitch, with the dynamic talent that they have on that team, they've got the ability to do a few things very well. So I'm not worried about them offensively, and if it takes them, hitting a few home runs to do it, I think that they can. I think that they can get that part done.
Hey, let's double back to Aaron Judge, because Moose and I opened the show talking about him again. Obviously, the Yankees winning and moving on now, clinching a spot into the postseason. I've been of the belief over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I wouldn't have been pitching to Judge. I just would refuse to give him anything to hit. He's clearly the best player, and no one else in that lineup was hitting. Now, at least other guys are hitting. How do you think pitchers are going to handle him over the next 7 games? Because he still has, you have today against the Blue Jays and 3 games against the Orioles, and the Orioles might still have something to play for.
Well, I mean, if the Orioles are crazy enough to pitch to him, they get what they deserve. But I mean, hasn't he crushed them routinely during his career? So look, to win, to beat the Yankees, I think you have to walk Judge. I think you have to make him get himself out. Look, I don't think he's pressed so far in this drought of his. I think it's 7 games now where he hasn't hit one. I don't think he's pressed because he's still taking his walks. They're trying to get him to expand his strike zone. He's refusing to do it, and he's walking. So he's still a productive offensive player. I just don't think the other guys in there, as much as you get, as much as I'm getting happy about Glaber and some of the other guys in there that can hurt you, Judge is the one that can just destroy an entire series by himself, unless Stanton gets hot, because he can do that too. But so I think you just pitch around him. You hope that Judge is like, oh man, I'm tired of my parents being here. I'm tired of the Maris family being around. Everybody's watching me. You gotta help. You hope he gets to that point where he's jittery and then starts expanding. But that's not really in his baseball DNA so far. But why take the chance that he hits one 550 feet off you with a runner on base?
Anthony, how many home runs do you think Judge ends up with?
64. I think he gets it, and I think that there's going to be a game coming up here where he gets 2. I'm not saying it's going to be 61 and 62 in the same game. It might be 61 and then 62 and 63. But I think he's got a little bit of a run coming here, coming up where he's going to get it and he's going to smash it, and we're all going to be wowed by it. I don't think the moment's too big for him. Like I said, I don't think he's pressing. The home runs are going to come, and this is one of the most extraordinary baseball seasons we've ever seen, and we ever will see. And it's just been a treat to watch the whole thing.
Well, Anthony, put that into kind of you've been around New York covering baseball for years here. How good of an offensive year is this for Judge from your perspective?
Well, look, I mean, no one has ever chased the Triple Crown while they're doing what he's doing home run wise, right? So, I mean, it's the best since Barry Bonds was doing his thing, surely, and it's one of the greatest ever. I mean, he has Babe Ruth never hit more than 60 home runs. Judge has 60 home runs. That's, to me, you say that sentence out loud and it's crazy. I know the eras were different, and I know Ruth played in pre-integration, and I know that, there were fewer teams. And I don't know, I can't remember who said this, but he was hitting against farmers and whatever. Some of the pitching is so incredible now. To me, that adds it. Ruth and a lot of those guys who have gotten to 60, where they weren't facing, the 4-inning starter who threw 99, the 5th and 6th inning guy who threw 99 and had an insane splitter, and then the setup guy who had the wickedest slider in baseball, and then the closer who was throwing 103. So, it's insane what Judge has done against those guys, facing all those different pitchers, never seeing an exhausted starter at the end of the game. So he really has, we love the Triple Crown, even though I don't think it's as meaningful as it once was. It says something about your year. That's happened so few times. And then 60 home runs has happened however many times it is. You smash them both together. I mean, what more can Judge do? Go up and down the list of the things that he leads in. And I mean, it's amazing.
We needed a magical season from somebody to unseat Shohei Ohtani as the MVP. And I think Aaron Judge has done exactly that.
That's exactly the right way to put it, too, because I think that in New York, anyway, there are a lot of people who are outraged at the idea that Judge might not be the MVP. What about Ohtani? Come on. What Judge is doing is spectacular. Well, Ohtani is a unicorn in a way that no one has ever been one. And, if he does what he does every single year, you're going to have to chase 60 homers. You're going to have to chase the Triple Crown to unseat him as the MVP.
Anthony, we're flat out of time. You're great. We appreciate it. We got to get you on again soon. All right, Anthony McCarron, SNY, Baseball Insider. Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. That does it for Keith and I. We're done for the day. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 10 for another edition of Moose and Keith. Thanks to Brian Geltzeiler, Anthony McCarron. Thanks for you guys for joining us. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 10. Have a great day.